Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. I am back from my business trip, going to be casting some more of your community submitted replays alongside a few of my own as we lead up to the release of the Vampire Coast. Got some plans. I'm going to try and get out the Dwarf guide because that's the one you guys chose in the poll. That I had on the community tab. Had quite a few votes come in. I've also put up a poll of who you guys want me to do for my campaign. I'm planning on doing a legendary campaign with the Vampire Coast, so be sure to check out said poll if you haven't already. And yeah, this particular battle is going to be my Chaos going up against a Dark Elf opponent. One of you guys had requested an all-cav build. This is sort of my Chaos interpretation of that, so let's go ahead and take a look. Leading the way, we've got Kolek Sun Eater. He's sort of like cavalry. He's definitely as fast as many cavalry in the game. He's got his Lord of the Storm and a I guess also Foe Seeker, but no standard die. We've got 5 Marauder Horse Masters, as well as the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. We've got a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Metal as well, Summoners of Rage, and 2 Chaos Chariots. So for my opponent, he's got a front line of Hargoneth Executioners, some Dread Spears and Bleak Swords, 1 unit of Cold One Knights, a couple Witch Elves, and Malekith on a Cold One. He's got Blade Wind, and I believe that's Word of Pain. Interesting spell combination there. Typically you always want to bring Power of Darkness. You can get more Winds of Magic, but nonetheless, Word of Pain's definitely a pretty strong debuff. But the issue that my opponent's going to face here is that obviously this is a very unconventional army. I really don't have any kind of a front line. I don't know if this is technically tournament legal. I think I'm just barely short of the model count that you would need to make this build tournament legal, and you could just cut some of these Marauder Horsemasters down to get like some Poison Warhounds, which arguably might be better anyway. They would fill out enough numbers to technically make this tournament legal build. I think also 5 Horsemasters might be one too many. I think you might be limited to 4 on that, so you know, cutting them down would make sense in that way anyway. But you can see I'm kind of pulling my units, my opponent's single mobile unit here, these Cold One Knights, pulling them in different directions. Kolek's going to get in here and just absolutely beat them down. You can see him clubbing several with a single swipe there, no problem, just smashing them completely in the face. And yeah, with my opponent's mobility more or less offline, that's going to leave my chariots to do the majority of the work against his infantry, of course. We've got, on the other side, we've just about lured Malekith into the Shaggoth. That's my intention here. So just going for a quick hit and run charge, trying to get Malekith to start committing to trying to fight this Shaggoth here. With Word of Pain, he definitely could do a pretty good job, but we're going to go ahead and drop that Overcast Final Transmutation on Malekith, try and leech away a good bit of his health there. I was hoping he would be nearby some of his troops, but I'll take what I can get. You can see Kolek and the Summoners of Rage moving up to fight some Hargoneth Executioners and Bleak Swords that had tried to come in. Nice escalation of the situation there, dropping the Lord of the Storm. Meanwhile, the Chariots running through the lines of the Dark Elves, just creating absolute chaos, as the Warriors of Chaos, you can imagine, would like to do. You can see Witch Elves trying to pursue here, but just getting javelined, you know, happy Javelin Day right to the face. And these Marauder Horsemasters are going to be able to do solid missile damage, even against the heavily armored Executioners there. You can see these Chariots just cutting through the lines of said Executioners, doing a ton of damage. Meanwhile, the Word of Pain did go on the Shaggoth, but not before he did a ton of damage to Malekith, who's also getting a happy Javelin Day there. And you can see his Cold One just getting lit up by the Marauder Horsemasters here. So we'll continue to watch as these guys charge in. Malekith will definitely be able to take down some of them in melee, but I'm just trying to pin him in here so that the Shaggoth can potentially come in and get some damage done, but trying to pull away with that Word of Pain up, just because I'm not going to be as effective with that active. But now that that's going to drop, we'll switch back. Meanwhile, over on the far side, Kolek pulling back. Unfortunately, Summoners of Rage have their chain lightning charged up, but they are currently enraged by the Witch Elves here. You can see some Marauder Horsemasters also unable to pull away, unfortunately. But that being said, we're going to bring Papa Kolek back in here just because why not, right? Need to administer a beatdown on these Ponzi Dark Elves. I think they're so edgy when really Chaos is the OG heavy metal. I mean, it's like the, you know, the Dark Elves are the emo kids, and Warriors of Chaos are the ones who listen to like classic heavy metal, right? At least that's the way I see it. Certainly, you can see more Happy Javelin Day coming in from the back, and in particular, of course, against the Witch Elves. That's going to be particularly devastating. But here comes the Chain Lightning from the Summoners of Rage, who have finally been able to get over their rage and call in the Chain Lightning, which is going to just bathe Kolek in light here, very thematically. The Mountain God just getting that right on top of him, and with that, a lot of the Dark Elf forces are gone. You can see Malekith did get terrified away by that Shaggoth, who has taken some damage, but not quite enough. The Chariot's still online as well, and there's really nothing the Dark Elves have that can shut down the Chariots at this point, and that's one of the reasons why I like bringing Chariots against the Dark Elves. They're usually relatively weak in the cav game, especially depending on the build your opponent brings. I mean, obviously, if they bring the appropriate build, they can potentially be pretty powerful in the cav game. But typically people won't plan on that, or, you know, especially against certain factions. Certainly you might see a few Cold One Knights here, but still, you can sort of pull them apart and use different units to try and get them enraged and then pull them away from your enemy's army. You can see Malekith had just got beat down by that Shaggoth. With that, my opponent admits defeat. So, very fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. A bit of an unorthodox build and not technically tournament legal, although just barely on the borderline. So, yeah, we'll go over that in just a minute. But in terms of the kills here, 79 on Kolek, 139 for the Summoners of Rage. That big old Chain Lightning in the end definitely contributed a lot to that. 32 and an XP Chevron for the Shaggoth, which beat down Malekith. Pretty cost effective. And then the Horsemasters also 44, 52, 33. These guys are quite cost effective in this matchup. You can see my opponent just really didn't have the tools to deal with this kind of heavy skirmish kite build from Chaos, especially because of the Chariots constantly hit and run on these Dark Shards. What it meant that, once I routed off those Cold One Knights, then the Dark Shards and all these infantry are more or less at the mercy of these Chariots and the more mobile units. So, Dark Elves definitely can be picked apart in that way. In terms of how you might stop that up, there are a few different things you can do. There are some, control type debuffs that you have access to. In particular, if you're going to go against Chaos, actually, I think Morathi on foot can potentially be a pretty solid option. Let's see. So if you take her on foot, she has quite a few debuffs. We'll go ahead and cut Deadly Onslaught, but we are going to take Heartrender and Darksword. The Wand may not be bad. Soul Steal is pretty good. Power of Darkness you always want to keep. And then in particular, we're also going to take Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma for that slow. And of course does pretty good damage to Cavalry as well. Then she's got the Enchanting Beauty and the Heartrender and Darksword to provide some nice area of effect debuffs. If you really want to go heavy on the debuffs, it does make Morathi cost a bit more, but you could also include the Soul Blight there, just to drop some additional armor debuffing in the center, but not necessarily necessary. Blades of the Blood Queen also very good here with that Guardian, just to give Morathi a bit of extra physical resistance, and they themselves will pretty much fight to the death just about every time. A couple of Witch Elves, definitely not a bad idea. We're going to grab some Dread Spears as well. And then, yeah, a couple Doomfire Warlocks. Doomfire Warlocks are tricky because they can take some pretty heavy missile damage, but with the Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma, if the Doomfire Warlocks can get a hold of the Horsemasters, of course, they have poison damage. So pretty effective in that way. They can definitely help stop things up a little bit there. Yeah, in terms of the infantry, we may even want to grab something more, but just... Cold One Knights actually might not be a bad idea. These guys have a reasonably decent charge bonus, and can definitely do some armor-piercing damage against both infantry and large targets. So a couple of them, and then, you could do some various different things here. You could maybe grab like a Death Hag, cut most of her abilities, and just grab this Chill Blade to give that 12% speed aura, kind of keep her on foot in this little Death Star here. And maybe just to fill out some more numbers, you grab some Corsairs or something. Handbows might not be bad if you could afford them. We might need to cut a few various abilities here in order to do so. So, yeah, here, in order to beef that up, not quite enough on the wand there. So, maybe we go ahead and just cut that Death Hag and just grab 3 of these guys. The extra speed the speed debuff from the Death Hag would certainly be useful, but there's kind of a bit of theory crafting going on, and you can see how I might craft some build, but just in general, using some of those stacking speed debuffs that you have access to, you know, from Melkost to the Poison to potentially the Chill Blade as well. You know, if you wanted to bring Chill Wind with Malekith, that is also a decent speed debuff, but I like Melkost a little bit better against heavy cavalry type builds. So, yeah, or just in general cav type builds. I guess that particular Chaos build was more of a light cavalry build, but in terms of that actual Chaos build here, how you would make that technically tournament legal, just quickly for those of you who are wondering, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who are knowledgeable about the subject, that the funds limit for Shetland Apache and the other community members tournament rule set, or sorry, not the funds limit, the model count limit is what, 250? So if you were to do something like this, grab maybe a couple horsemen, 3 horse masters, let's grab a couple poison warhounds, then we need summoners of rage, we need another Shaggoth, we've got Kolek, we've got the metal sorcerer, and what am I missing? The chariots. That's right, we need some chariots. So grab 1. Looks like we don't quite have enough. We could maybe grab another unit of hounds or do something like this. This might put you at the right minimum model count if it's 250. If it's more, you might need to cut the chariots and bring 2 more units of hounds. This would give you even more unit models. Because hounds have 60 models, they can kind of help you pad that out a little bit. Of course, they have the poison as well, and they're nice and mobile, so they can kind of support this more skirmish threat type army. But just in general, I would say this kind of build is going to work relatively well, mostly only against the Dark Elves, which are kind of lighter and at the same time not necessarily the best in the cav game. If you can kind of draw out their mobile tools, use your anti-large armor piercing mobility, you know, advantage to kind of draw them away and fight them away from infantry support, then you have the tools to kind of just raffle stomp over any infantry you come up against. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe. I'm going to keep it coming again with your own replays. I don't know how many of them I'll get to before the patch comes. You guys have continued to send me quite a few, which big thanks to everyone who did. Even if I don't get to your replay, just thanks again for sending it in. Yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one.